Hey there! Yeah, this is yet another video about the partnership between PigDev and Packt Publishing. Yeah guys, until we release the book, there will only be videos about that here in the channel because I need you to support me. Guys, I have bills to pay. I'm about to move to an apartment, so yeah, I have like this extra money, guys. Please help. But anyway, in this video, we are going to talk about, we are going to make a Q&A. So there are a lot of questions that people repeatedly asked, and some that are interested but some that are not repeated. And I decided to group them all together and reply at once here in this video. So let's get started. So let's start with the first and most asked question, which is the book up to date with Godot 4.2? Yes, the book is up to date with Godot 4.2. And I think that it will be up to date with all Godot 4 releases because the Godot team doesn't usually make major changes in feature releases. So they are feature releases and not major releases. And usually they don't make anything that break compatibility. So with the API, right? There were some changes. So there were some optimization. Fabio Alessandro made some cool optimizations, and I think that was some usability improvements as well, but nothing that will prevent you from following the book. So you can still follow the method present in the book and everything will work. So I hope this asked this question. So moving on to the next most asked question, which is, does the book address dedicated servers? So as I said, I have few experience with online multiplayer development, game development, but the small research that I did, from what I could understand, yes, the methods presented in the book definitely addresses dedicated servers, because the very API itself takes the premise that there will be a client and a server, so you can make just the server code self-contained, and you can run only the server side of the application on the dedicated service that you are using to host your game. So you can make like segregated applications, one for the server, one for the client, and they can run independently as long as you can make the communication between them. So answering the question, does the book address dedicated server? Yes. Okay, so this is a tricky one because I couldn't test it by myself, and by the time that the person that actually started with this topic was able to help me, the book was already was ready. So if there was something about that was necessary to talk about, I couldn't actually make any major changes. But the question is, does the book address port forwarding? So port forwarding is a type of redirect. As far as I could understand, as I said, I don't have much experience with networking and stuff like this. But port forwarding is like a kind of feature or tool that internet providers and especially some modern modems do, that they will kind of like redirect some IPs. So they have like a hub and they can redirect some IPs and mix them, and so I think that this is made for security, I don't know. The thing is, as far as you have, because this is kind of like a masking of IP addresses, so as far as you have the direct IP address to the computer that you want to make a connection with, you can basically just make a direct request to it. So there is no problem with this kind of port forwarding. As far as you have the IP address, the direct IP address, you can override the local host in the instructions that we have in the book, because in the book we are using local hosting, but everything should work as intended, as planned. As far as you have the direct IP address for the computer that you are using as your hosting service, as your hosting computer, you'll be good. So answering the question, does the book address port forwarding? No, but as far as you have the IP address of the server that you want to connect, you'll be good. So moving on to the next question, is the approach server-client based or peer-to-peer based? So The approach that we use in the book is server-client based, so you have a client that connects to a server and a server that opens a port of connection for clients. But the Godot Engine API network, a high-level network API, has a feature called mesh peer, something like that, where there are many peers that behave in an horizontal relationship, so there is no actual authority on the network. As far as you can understand, to be honest, I don't understand very well this whole thing, but answering the question, is the approach server-based or server-client-based or peer-to-peer based? I would say that it's server-client based. So yet another very asked question is there a PDF or online version of the book? If you buy any of the copies of the book, so the Kindle one and the physical one, so the paperback one, at some point in the book, I don't know if it's at the cover side or at the end of the book, there is a QR code for you, so you can redeem a PDF version of the book, so you can read it for personal use. But there is no official PDF version online yet, and there is no online version as well, as far as I know. I don't know if the Packt publishing online platform provides this kind of feature, but I will put a link in the description so you guys can check this out. Maybe they have like a reading platform that you can have access to all the books that they provide, of course for a monthly fee probably. I don't know if this is a business model that they follow, but I know that there is some platforms that provide this kind of service, so maybe they provide it as well. So answering the question, is there a PDF or online version? Not yet, or not officially at least. So another question that is very interesting to answer is, does the book cover transmitting user passwords securely? No, this is not a topic that we cover in the book. This leans more toward like network security and this kind of thing that we are more concerned when we actually have something in bigger scales. So in the book we have like a fake database with user passwords, so it's plain text just for testing purposes. But yeah, of course, if you have something that is meant for real life situations, you will have some kind of cryptography behind this. So maybe you will use something like a HTTPS request for sending and receiving passwords, or like other kind of sensitive data. Another very interesting question asked is there any server-side prediction to help prevent cheating? For example, if someone used cheat engine to teleport 1,000 units on the x-axis, could the server know that was impossible? I think that in the chapter 12, we talk about prediction, interpolation, and extrapolation. And by this chapter, we take the responsibility of calculating the player's positioning and movement in general to the server. So the server is the actual responsible for stuff like this, and it makes prediction based on the previous and next, the previous and current position of the character. So and it adjusts the actual velocity of the player's spaceship, because we are using the project made in chapter 9 from chapter 10 and beyond. So answering the question, I think that probably with this, after implementing the knowledge present and the techniques presented in chapter 12, you will probably be able to make this kind of prediction to prevent cheating. So answering the question is a very shady question, because I don't know how complex it would be to actually prevent actual cheating, But answering directly the question, is there any server-side prediction? Yes. Prediction, interpolation, and extrapolation is all done on server side. I think that interpolation and extrapolation is made on the client side because they receive the new position that the server calculated, and then they will make the interpolation and the extrapolation. But the actual prediction is made on the server side. So the server is the one that actually provides the data regarding the movement made by the player's character, or in this case, the player's spaceship. So the next question is, do you have a guide to setting up a server to run your Godot game in it anywhere? Even if it's not yours, would be useful to have. Yeah, definitely. So nowadays, the very good documentation itself about the ENetPeer connection, or ENetPeer only, has a micro tutorial about how you can set up a server and connect to a server. So answering the question, yeah, I will put the link in the description for the documentation so you guys can see how easy it is. Yeah, when you have documentation, it's very easy to understand this stuff. So the next question is, what do you consider to be the most difficult part of designing, implementing online multiplayer games in Godot? So I think that from my experience, which is basically writing this book, the most difficult part was chapter 12, about like implementing prediction, extrapolation, and interpolation, and also chapter 9, especially the part that was about like synchronizing the server world to players world, because there are a lot of stuff that you can miss in this replication, because this synchronization, because you never know what will be on the other side of the connection, or what would not be on the other side. So for instance, on the server side, you can have like an obstacle that appears, like let's say one of the players casted like a skill that creates a wall, an ice wall for instance, or an earth wall, and this wasn't replicated in the other player's instance of the game. So the other players will be like just pass through directly and hit the other player if there is like a PvP, for instance. So you have to be very careful about everything that we implement and how will this replicate in other players' instance. And also prediction and extrapolation and interpolation is very annoying as well, because there is just a lot of things that you have to calculate, and it's not as easy as just like basic physics. You have to calculate like the time between the connection, and maybe it's not as accurate as you think it would be, because it takes the previous time, like the previous calculated latency, and it might be not the current latency. And another thing is that if you like you never know how will the player actually behave, so you may calculate like, okay, so based on this velocity of the player, we can make an extrapolation that it will be the player's spaceship or the player character will be at this position at this time in the next frame or in the next network tick. And if they made some, if they stop it walking or thrusting, um, or so there is another technique which we don't go through in the book, I think, that is you take the player's input and you try to create an average behavior for the player. So I don't know if you already saw this kind of stuff, like players trying to be very random in their play in the gameplay, online gameplay, especially on like Counter-Strike or this kind of first-person shooter multiplayer games, where the player tries to be like very random in their the movements. It's probably because if Valve, like if the algorithm realize that there is like a pattern in the movement, it will create a next movement that is predictive for the other players as well. and if they need to update synchronize the players based on this algorithm, the other player can like predict where will be the next position and shoot the other player right there, whereas the player maybe will not be there. So yeah, there are a lot of stuff regarding interpolation, prediction, and extrapolation that is very fine tuning and very specific to each game, which I think that this will be one of the most aggressive topics when you want to actually develop an accurate action based online multiplayer game. So the next question is, I am new to Godot. Well, welcome. I want to create 2D MMORPG games. Nice. Is it possible to do like this type of game, massive multiplayer? And yeah, if yes, how? What I need to learn? Well, the first thing is like buy the book and read it. Because one connection from using the Godot API supports like I think that up to 4,000 clients in a single server, if the server has the infrastructure and actual hardware to support this amount of clients. But the connection itself, like the software itself, supports more than 4,000 connections in a single server. And I want to create an 2D. So one of my core influences while making this whole book was Ragnarok Online, because I always wanted to make something like that. So I didn't saw anything that would prevent us from making something like this. So replying this question, well, I think that is very viable to do. So it's just a matter of like learning how to actually make a single player version of your 2D MMORPG, and then you port it or you remake it as a online multiplayer game. So I am new to Godot. First, learn how to make simple 2D games, then you move on to making MMORPGs, because they are way more complex than you think. What I need to learn, yeah, learn the things that are in the book basically. With that, you'll be able to like extrapolate the knowledge and apply it to your own game. So the next question is, what is the best cloud architecture for multiplayer games? Containers maybe? I mean, how do you manage concurrent sessions? Thanks. Tricky one, right? So to be honest, I don't know. Cloud architecture for multiplayer games, I have no idea how would you make that. But regarding concurrent sessions, if this is regarding like if the same player can log into the server and using the same email, someone else could log in as well using the same user. In the book, we address this kind of situation where you basically just keep a singleton with all the players that are currently logged in. If another person tries to log in using a player's username, it will be in this dictionary, and you basically say, "Oh, connection denied." So yeah, I think that the best option would be like to drop the current player and log in with using the new attempt to connect. I think that this will be better, but to be honest, I didn't actually understand half of what this question actually addresses. So yeah, sorry about that. This is one of my limitations. We don't work with cloud architectures in the book, so I have no idea how would I reply to that, or how would I implement this kind of thing in a multiplayer game, at least not now. So the next question is, how hard is making a client prediction system, and will it be implemented on Godot natively if it's not there yet? Well, I don't know if there is any plans to implement anything like that natively in Godot. Currently, there is none. The prediction, interpolation, and extrapolation system is not that hard, especially if you use like the Godot current available features, for instance, the tweens, which, by the way, guys, I'll put a link in the description for a request that I made on the Godot proposals, that for a proposal that I made there, asking the guys to bring back, the Tween Node. The new system is it sucks. I mean, there are some features that are very cool, and but there is nothing like that prevent us from having this feature with the previous Tween Node. Actually, the current Tween system behaves almost like if it was a node, so there is no reason for not being a node. And it's very annoying because, anyway, I will put a link in the description so you can go there. Upvote my request, guys, please. Let's make this happen. I need to leverage all my followers here, so let's do that. Let's massively upvote my feature proposal to bring back the previous Tween Node. But anyway, using the new Tween system, which is not a node, right? So it's just Tween class. So using the Tween class, you can make interpolations and extrapolations very easily, and you can use some supportive classes like the ENetConnection, if I'm not mistaken, to gather some data necessary for making like prediction. So for instance, using the player's current latency to calculate the actual velocity of the player based on the previous and the current updates about its position, so you can calculate the actual velocity of the player using this as the base for calculations. So answering the question, I don't know if there will something be implemented natively on Godot regarding that. That could be something like that in the multiplayer synchronizer. It will be very, very good to have this natively implemented. But since this is something that is very ad hoc, most games will need something very specific for each situation. So I think that won't be something like this, at least not very usefully. So I think that this is the kind of stuff that you have to make by hand on your end, so manually. Answering the question, how hard it is to make a prediction system is not very hard, as long as you know what you want to predict and the data that you need to make this prediction. And you can use like the tweens to make interpolation and extrapolation. And I don't know if there will be anything regarding that in the near future of Godot Engine. So the next question is interpolation. I beg, guys. When I was writing the book, one of the most shared, retweeted, and stuff like this posts that I made was exactly about interpolation and prediction and extrapolation. So chapter 12 has this kind of knowledge, guys. We have prediction, interpolation, and extrapolation, lag compensation techniques, and some introductory paragraphs about what is lag, what is latency, why does the stuff happens, why do they matter, and everything like that. So interpolation, I beg, yes, I attended your request. We have interpolation chapters on the book. So the next question is, how can you go about hosting servers and managing players' connections and data if your game isn't on a platform like Steam? This is a good question. Well, usually you have a self-hosted platform, which is kind of the industry default, to be honest. And you can hire some services that will help you protect this kind of sensitive data, and to also manage some players' connections. So, as I said previously, the book goes all about like dedicated servers. If you manage to use something like a platform like Steam, you'll probably have some kind of REST API that you can use to make requests back and forth from the servers. And if this is the case, we have on chapter 13 how you can make HTTP requests. So this will allow you to use Steam's REST API to manage your servers and the connection and the data and players' data on Steam's servers. So answering the server, how can you go about hosting servers and manage players connection if your game isn't on a platform like Steam? You probably will have a hosting platform dedicated for this kind of stuff with probably something like a REST API, so you can manage like posting new players on the database and gather all the data that you need from this database whenever your game request it. So basically you'll have a dedicated server, a dedicated service for this kind of connection to manage this kind of stuff. So the next and final question is this the final? Let's see if there is someone new. Yeah. So the final question is, can you describe the how to bitpack using GDScript? What's that mean? Minimizing. So the person goes about explaining the the very question. So answering the question, what's that mean? Minimizing the number of wasted zeros at the front of typing before writing to packets, i.e. splitting into integers into nibbles and combining nibbles into bytes and integers. This is very complex, guys. I don't think that this is necessary at this point. Well, no, the book doesn't cover this kind of heavy optimization. I don't think that that's necessary, at least not in a high level API. If this happens, probably it will happen on a lower side or at least on behind the scenes. But the book goes about compressing data. Probably what happens is something similar to that, so I don't know how this happens. So the method that we use in the book is the zlib compression, I think, but Godot provides by default I think that 4 compression methods. Probably one of them will make this kind of weird stuff like bitpacking. So I don't know if this is accessible directly through GDScript. Probably you can access the zlib compression through GDScript. I think that I saw something like that when I was researching compressing data. But on chapter 11, if I'm not mistaken, we go into like optimizing data request, in which one of the features that we use to minimize the request size is compressing data. And I think that this person described it's some kind of compression method, which if this is the case, it's covered by the zlib behind the scenes, so we don't have to do this manually, but we can use the zlib to compress the data's request and implement data compression in our network requests as well. So answering the question, how can you describe the how to bitpack using GDScript? You use the zlib, how they call like this layer, this high level layer. You don't have to do this manually. You can use another person's implementation, which in this case is the zlib provided by the GDScript like Godot API itself. Well, guys, with that we ended up the Q&A. I hope you enjoy it. A lot of guys, we are surrounded by like people with all sorts of high IQs here. The questions were all very good. Some were like, as you saw, some of them were like beyond my own knowledge. So you guys, there are some people that actually could write some books as well. So because it's very scarce, this kind of knowledge is very scarce. So I think that these people could also help us get into their level, into their development level. Well, thank you so much for watching. Keep developing. Pre-order the book, guys. The book is amazing, guys. Why did you buy the book yet? I'll put the link in the description. The link is in the screen as well, so if you want to type it manually, I'll put the link in the description and go there, pre-order. We are currently having 5% discount for early birds. And well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Keep developing, and until the next time. See you there.